Hey, it's Juck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth. We're Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw, and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. And welcome to the Juck on Bucks post-game show, initial takes version as the Buckeyes defeat Washington 24-6 today. That's an 18-point win from a team and a coaching staff that's still kind of figuring itself out with a first-year quarterback, first-year OC, first-year DC. There's still a long way to go. That's pretty clear. A lot to improve upon, but we learned a lot more today. Now through 4 games, sitting at 4-0, having played Texas week 1, going out a real challenging game today at Washington. And I got a list of things that I want to go over today. This game was wild. I mean, a really interesting game. I streamed it. So while I'm streaming the thing, I'm talking. And sometimes when I'm talking and I'm answering these people, folks' questions or comments, and I'm bringing them up on screen, I kind of miss certain things in the game, or I misremember things. So I had to go back. It's like 2 a.m. now after the Penn State game in the Penn State, man, you got to be kidding me. In the Alabama-Georgia game, which we'll talk about obviously this week. But as I was going back through my notes, I went back drive by drive, and I remembered that it was almost the end of the first quarter. And I was saying to the people in the chat, like, have we only had one possession, or am I misremembering this? It was so strange, the game flow today. We're talking 7 total possessions for Ohio State, and the final one was with 3 minutes left, just running out the clock. So keep in mind, when we talk about the numbers, the yards that they gained, etc., the points that they scored, we're only talking about 6 real possessions of football, 6 offensive possessions, which is just bizarre, man. I can't recall a game like this. It was really interesting. But I want to start today with the lead up, which, there was a 2-week buildup heading into this game, right? You had Ohio, then a bye week, then the Washington game. And this Washington game was one that, I thought from the very first moment we saw this schedule, all right, that's going to be a tough one. That's a tough place to play. That's a team on the come up. They've got DeMond Williams. And boy, did we hear a whole lot about DeMond Williams and Jonah Coleman. Great running back. Denzel Boston, a great wide receiver. And these 3 players are really good. So you would think with the best wide receiver and the best running back and the best quarterback that Ohio State's going to face all year, that there would be, some, all right, this is going to be a pretty tough game for Ohio State. But it went way further than that, man. You started off with that look-ahead line at 14 points, and then it opened at 11.5 last Saturday. And it got all the way down to 8 points. And the momentum was just picking up more and more and more for this Washington team. And it started to spread like a virus. And I get that from the national media. I expect that from them. But Ohio State fans and people who cover Ohio State started just going bananas with this game. Like it was, I literally heard a harder test than the Texas game. And it just felt like such a underestimation of the program that we got here with Ryan Day in what I feel is the best coaching staff in the country. By the way, Kirby loses again to Alabama and to Kalen DeBoer, now 0-2 against Kalen DeBoer. And this Ohio State team, it's an excellent team. It's an excellent team, excellent coach team. This Washington team was never going to give them a matchup like that. But Ryan Day and Ohio State continually treated like they are just like they're not a top tier team. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Alabama, Georgia, they get the benefit of the doubt and things like this. Ryan Day, not there yet, but he should be. And I knew that this was going the way we would all want it to go when I saw Ryan Day on Tuesday and realized he's treating this like he treated the Oregon game last year. He's that serious about this. The problem was Washington is nothing like Oregon 2024. This Washington team is nowhere near that talented. Washington, 3 guys, maybe 4 guys who could start on the Ohio State team. Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston, maybe one of those tackles over time alone. They played pretty well today. Not their nickel. He's a freshman. Not their right guard. He's a freshman too. None of their tight ends, safeties, corners, linebackers, edges, tackles, none of them. Not a single one. Not in their two deep. Their two deep couldn't crack Ohio State's two deep. We're talking 3 guys out of their top 44 could play in Ohio State's first string or two deep. That's the disparity here. And the coaching staff, led by the best coach in the country versus a guy coaching his 17th game at Washington, who I think is really good. He's got something really good building. They certainly got a great home field advantage, and you're traveling across the country. There was a lot there, but my goodness, man, the hysteria over this game. This is a game that could have been a huge blowout. It could have been a really big blowout. The Buckeyes didn't choose to play it that way. But Damon Williams, who is a really good quarterback, did end up having a really good game passing the ball. Not good enough. Buckeye defense was just amazing. But on possession 1, Williams found out what he had in for him. He's never faced athletes like this. He's never faced athletes that take away angles the way these Ohio State athletes were taking away angles. He's never faced a defensive line that knew how to contain him. They were so disciplined. It was perfect. And the opening possession for Damon Williams, 3 and out, and you could just see it. He stepped up like he was going to run at one point, and just the way they were set up for him, he was like, I can't get through there. Buckeyes offense immediately takes it, rolls downfield in huge lanes. The offensive line just blowing them open. And I'm thinking at that point, like, we're going to run all over these guys. Donaldson is picking up a 10-yarder, a 12-yarder. And then you get down into the red zone right off the rip. And on a 4th and 1 play call, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not worried about the red zone. I think the Ohio game, the play calls were there, a couple poor execution, poor decisions by Julian Sayin. This is not a bigger issue. In 4th and 1, I thought we were going to see Bo Jackson, and we didn't. We saw CJ Donaldson, who promptly came in and got stuffed. And he ran straight up and down and got hit by one guy, and that was it. It was over. Now, could Bo Jackson have got in that situation? I don't know, but here's CJ after the game talking about it.
Tell us, definitely on that 4th and 1, I got to do a better job getting my pass down. That's something, I got to continually work on. But,
he's got to do a better job getting his pads down. It's something he needs to continually work on. This dude, 2 full years at West Virginia running the ball, and now he's in his 3rd year running the ball in college football. If that's not something he has down yet, I don't know how he's ever going to get that down. It's just not taking advantage of his size when he runs straight up and down like that into contact. Yards after contact today, he had 1.44. Peoples had 1.33. Bo had 3.76, which is well below his average as well, but still more than double both of theirs. And he also has the ability to get skinny through there. So, all right, you see it in the first possession. CJ gets stuffed. I'm thinking for sure next time it'll be Bo. No, they brought Donaldson in every short yardage situation, and we're starting to see kind of defined roles for each of these backs, which we'll have a conversation about the backs separately either tomorrow or at the end of the show. But Washington then takes the ball over for their second possession, and the defense, after 5 plays, punt again. So now the Buckeyes get a nice punt return finally, right? It's been a while. Brandon Ennis busts off a 30-yarder, and with 2 hands on the ball, this team is cursed when it comes to punt returns. Somehow they rip one arm off, ball comes loose, and we got another fumble on a punt return. And it's just insane, man. It is just insane. Brandon Ennis, of all people, too, who's been taking so much crap. And I honestly, he had it wrapped up so tight. It wasn't like a careless error. So I was feeling pretty bad for him. But at any rate, the Buckeyes get the ball back on their 3rd possession and go 73 yards, 18-yard touchdown. Jeremiah does all the work. 7-3 Buckeyes at that point. And that was it. That was the first half of football. Ohio State had 3 possessions on offense. Crazy, man. The way Ohio State was calling the offense felt like a Jim Tressel called game. The only difference is Jim Tressel won games like that by also playing really great special teams. Buckeyes didn't have that. In addition to the fumble, they gave up a 50-yard kickoff return to Adam Muhammad, who's their big slow back. By the way, shout out Jaden Fielding, who took everything that dude had straight up head on to bring him to the ground. That was pretty awesome to see. But at halftime, I was pretty much tearing my hair out because Julian could not get into any rhythm the way they were calling the game. Wasn't throwing the ball downfield at all. He's the most accurate quarterback in the country coming into the game, and his most accurate spot on the field is in the middle of the field, which they were either doing a good job taking away, or I don't know. It just wasn't getting any work over the middle of the field. Certainly very little work past 10 yards down the field. Nothing, not a single ball past 20 today. Not one single ball. Obviously, we got to see the all 22 to see the coverages, but it sure felt like with a 4.9 average depth per target, which is way lower than his normal, that he was kind of being instructed to keep everything short, or the routes were dictating that. It just didn't feel like they were letting him rip at all. And it felt like his rhythm was kind of affected by it. It just didn't feel as pinpoint as it had. At the same time, the running game kind of slowed. It wasn't working great. And the entire first half, I say the entire 3 possessions in the first half, it just didn't feel good. And it felt like you could have been blowing them out at that point to me. But in the second half, things started to change. Like when I look back, all right, the first half, yeah, really conservative. What did you accomplish? Well, you didn't put Julian in any danger. You continue to build his confidence. And obviously you end up winning the game by 18 points. I said, bet it up to 17 and bet the house on it. You can bet my house. And that hits as the Buckeyes win by 18. The battle in the Purple Rain. The number 1 world famous Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the up-and-coming Huskies. Take the alternate line, bet this thing up to 17 points, and bet the flipping house on it. You can bet my house on it. But in the second half, they were slightly more aggressive in the passing game, though not a whole lot. We had 5 total targets further than 10 yards down the field today. Most of them were in the second half. But considering the circumstances, considering where you were playing, they did everything they could to shelter Julian. And I heard a lot of people after the game saying, time to take the training wheels off. Yeah, I would say I agree. I agreed before this game, definitely now, because he looked great. He was calm. He looked like he was having fun. He ran the ball a couple times and he looked really fast doing it. I think that surprised a lot of people. And the Buckeyes opened up the third quarter with a 14-play touchdown drive that started off with a couple of completions to Jeremiah, 13 yards, 8 yards. Jelani Thurman, shout out Jelani, caught a difficult ball off a tip, which turned out to be a great play for the Bucs to keep that drive going. And Ohio State had the assistance of a pretty weak roughing the passer penalty. Total garbage, to be honest. Jed Fish kind of felt like he got the shaft early in the first quarter. He got this, instead of a sideline warning, they immediately flagged him. And then he got his team a 15-yard penalty after that, which you just can't do, man. You can't do in that situation. And there was a couple like you can't do that in this type of game penalties we saw today. We saw one from Phil Daniels ripping a guy's helmet off. And we'll get to Edric. In the fourth quarter, up 17-6, the big dagger came on an 8-play, 44-yard drive that had a really excellent pass and catch by Max Clare to keep that drive going. Julian Sayin looked great on that throw. You get to a 3rd down and 17, and Bo Jackson busted off a really good-looking 16-yard run, just short. So it's 4th down, half a yard to go, 5 minutes left in the game. A field goal, easy chip shot field goal, puts you up 14 points. If you go for it on 4th down, you don't get it, you're up 11 points, which means Washington needs a touchdown, 2-point conversion, and a field goal to tie it up. I thought for sure Ryan Day was going to kick the field goal. Instead, they go for it on 4th, slip CJ Donaldson out, and Julian ever so smoothly takes his time, hits him on the money. CJ, all hands, 24-6 Buckeyes. And that's how it would end. The Buckeyes get the ball back with 3 minutes left and run out the clock. That was their 7th possession. So really 6 possessions. They scored 3 touchdowns in those 6 possessions, 1 field goal, 1 punt, 1 turnover on downs. So they scored on 4 of their 6 possessions, scored a touchdown on 50% of their possessions. So offensively, that's really good. And again, I think we saw more steps by Julian in the positive direction. Ryan Day talked after the game about Julian's first start being against number 1 Texas and his first road start being against a team with a 22-game home winning streak, which is now over. It's curtains. Shout out to the Buckeyes who represented. There was scarlet all through that place. But it's time to unleash the beast, man, because Julian is a beast. And I really hope that we don't have to go into this Illinois game after the Minnesota game, which is next week. Illinois the following week. And Illinois just beat USC. They look better doing it. I don't want to go into Champaign with this Texas game plan and whatever this Washington game plan was. It's just a little much. You don't need to be like that. You really don't. This dude's got it, man. He's got the goods. Anyway, I asked questions before the game, and why don't we run through the questions before I get into a couple of the defensive thoughts that I got, because the defense was just outstanding today. Obviously, number 1 and number 2, the West Coast curse, the bye week hangover. Yeah, those are done. But one of my questions was number 3, offensive aggression, which is what we've been talking about here. Would we come out of this game saying Brian Hartline called an aggressive game, a passive game? The average depth of target was less than 5 yards. And when you got the most accurate quarterback in the country, it just feels like you're wasting a lot of time and potential scores with these training wheels that they got on them. But again, you gain some stuff from it. I just hope that this was the last time we see it. Question number 4, deep shots over under 3.5, a deep shots over 20 yards. Certainly not a single one of those. So definitely under on that. Number 5, missed tackles. This is tremendous. Ohio State was averaging 6 missed tackles a game. They had 2 missed tackles on the day. Now, keep in mind, Washington just played Washington State in a game that Washington State had 17 missed tackles. Washington averaged 59 points a game the last 2 games. They came into this game as the top scoring offense in the country against really, really bad competition. Hey, that's what you're supposed to do against bad competition. How is it going to translate to Ohio State? That was the big question. I thought it would translate to 17 points. It translated to 6 because this defense is just outstanding. Question number 6, Edric Houston. He's obviously not played good this year. He was pretty bad against Ohio. Some people think he's still injured. I don't think he's still injured. I don't think it's lingering because I don't think the staff would allow him to play one of their starters at the time, not anymore, one of their starters at the time against Grambling in Ohio when they don't need him if he was still injured or if it, could potentially prolong his recovery. Makes no sense at all. So he gets to play today. Could he bump out of his, get a confidence builder or something? It didn't happen. In fact, it was just the opposite. He not only does not get a confidence builder, the lowest rated PFF player on the team, and a 15-yard penalty, a senseless, boneheaded penalty that cost the team. I'm so disappointed, man. This guy is just one of my favorite young players on this team. Things are going bad. The good news is it can only go up, as he's lost his starting spot for sure. When we look at the defensive tackle snaps on the day, you had Ty Malone, K-Mac with like 34 snaps apiece roughly, and then their backups, Will Smith Jr. With 9 snaps, Edric with 11 snaps, and he cost his team 15 yards on a boneheaded penalty. So his struggle continues, and we'll see what happens. He's a guy I got a lot of faith in. Smart kid, great guy, got a lot of talent, but we've not seen it this year at all from him. So let's go to number 7. What spy? The question there was it going to be Arvell or was it going to potentially be Caleb Downs, who was spying on Damon Williams? Arvell was just fine. He couldn't get around Arvell. This dude, who is one of the more electric runners we've seen as a quarterback in a long, long time, finished the day with like negative 28 yards. Negative 28 yards. I thought he'd get his. I thought he would for sure get his. He did not get his at all. Number 8, carry split. Now, what I wanted to see was like a 60-40 split with Bo getting the bulk of the carries and the CJ and James taking the 40 and divvying it up however they want to divvy it up between them. And that's pretty much what happened. As Bo had 17 carries, CJ had 9, James had 3. So 17 for Bo, 12 for the other two. And his average, while average per carry lower than usual at 4.7, CJ's was 4.5 and Peoples was 3.3. So he also had 3 explosive runs of 10 plus. And I think that you score a touchdown on your first possession if he gets the ball on 4th and 1. But anyway, the running game, I thought it was going to be cooking all day after that first possession. The offensive line ended up slowing down a bit, and they certainly did not do a great job in pass protection. That was a little concerning. Julian had to move off his spot quite a bit. Props to him. He's got a great feel in the pocket. He really does. And he did a great job throwing balls away when it wasn't there, and he just needed to get rid of it and not take a sack. But slightly concerning with the pass pro today, though we did hear that Washington, with their 4-man pressure, was one of the best in the country, and they looked like it today. Question number 9, CJ Hicks snaps over under 15. I thought this might be a game where we see him make an impact. 5 snaps. 5 snaps is what he had today, way under. So, yeah, we won't be asking that question again. Question number 11, Lorenzo Styles. Obviously, had a rough game against Ohio and got injured. What would we see in his stead if he was on the bench? Would it be the Jermaine Matthews moving to nickel, Devin Sanchez coming in at corner? Would it potentially be Bryce West? It was none. Lorenzo played, and boy, he almost missed a tackle there, but the guy's knee went down. He'd have been in the real doghouse with the Buckeye fans had he missed that. Number 11, Brandon Inniss time. Is this the day that Brandon Inniss breaks out? I think it is. It was, but first he fumbled that punt. But remember, it was a really good return before the fumble. And then he gets involved. He had 3 receptions for 34 yards, and he brought the juice. He looked like he had an extra pep in his step. He brought the hammer on a couple of them, and he converted, like, it might even been 3 first downs. It was definitely 2 because he was doing his thing. And he was fired up, and this is exactly what we need here. It's exactly what we need. We need a third target to emerge, whether that be a combination of him and Max Clare or just one of the two. And we got to see both of them involved in the passing game today, which was great to see. The offense needs it. We also got to see Mylan Graham for a couple of snaps. He played 5 snaps. Bryson Rogers played 2. Neither of them got any action, but they got on the field today, which was surprising to me. I know in the chat, there are a lot of people who have just had it with Brandon Inniss, want him benched. I thought he did a good job redeeming himself to some of those folks today and showed, that's why he's in there. He had the juice today. I don't think we've seen it like that in a while. That's the guy that I saw at practice. That's the guy people were talking about. There was more there. There was more there today. So I was really happy for him. Jeremiah Smith finishes with 9 targets, 8 receptions, 81 yards. I was hoping today would be a big breakout day for him to kind of kickstart the first place up in the Heisman Trophy campaign there. On a day when Fernando Mendoza, who's leading for the Heisman, was terrible, and Indiana almost lost to Iowa. They should have lost to Iowa. This could have been JJ literally in pole position if he had been a little more involved. That's plenty involved, but they weren't throwing it down the field. He did a lot of creating on his own. He was awesome as always. But not a great statistical output. Carnell Tate, just 4 targets, 3 receptions for 33 yards. I want to say at halftime, he didn't have a single target. Max Clare, 2 receptions for 26 yards. And that one was a first down catch that was a beautiful ball, beautiful. The way he put he got his foot in bounds. It looked exactly like the Texas play that he dropped. So redeeming himself there. And really nice to see both him and Innis involved with 5 catches between the both of them for 60 yards. And again, I think that's really important to get one of those two or some combination of both of them as a viable number 3 threat that people got to account for. All right, let's talk about some defense here. I do think that folks were right when they talked about Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston being the best wide receiver, running back, quarterback combo, maybe the best individual running back, quarterback, wide receiver Ohio State had faced all year in the Big Ten. I think they're right. Those dudes are all really, really good. And my thought was Damon Williams was going to get his, but Ohio State was going to limit it, keep it between the 20s. I thought Washington would probably score 17-ish points, and I was okay with that. Plenty okay. I thought that would be a really good accomplishment. This dude had an excellent day passing with 18 for 22 for 173 yards, though his average depth per target was about the same as Julian's. But it was the running that everybody was worried about, obviously, and minus 28 yards on the day. Buckeyes sack him 6 times. Defensive line, incredibly assignment sound football, which we talked about all week. A great job by Larry Johnson. He had them ready. They played it perfectly, and they were physically capable to play it perfectly. They held Jonah Coleman, who's an excellent running back, and we saw flashes, to 70 yards total. 70 yards on the ground. One of them was a 34-yarder. Outside of that, they did a great job of bottling him up. Remember, last week he caught 8 balls for over 100 yards. This week, 3 balls for 26 yards. So they took that 3-headed. Oh, I'm sorry. Denzel Boston was like 3 balls for less than 30 yards as well. So the 3-headed monster that was the best they're going to face all year, they totally bottled him up. This defense is just unbelievable. And these 3 guys who are really, really good, they were the reason everybody thought Ohio State was going to have such a tough time. Defense totally made them inconsequential. They were inconsequential despite Damon Williams maybe having the passing game of his life. Like, that dude was so accurate. He was on point. He did great. But when it comes down to getting in the red zone, this Buckeye defense has not given up a touchdown in the red zone all year. They've only given up 2 touchdowns on the year total through 4 games. The secondary played great. Arvell Reese played great. 3rd highest PFF player, a stat stuffer. Sonny played really good. 6 total tackles. Arvell had 5. IGB was fantastic, played with juice. He had 6 tackles, which is unbelievable at corner. How many tackles this guy racks up. He loves the physicality, and I love him for it. I am so happy that guy's back another year. By the way, I haven't seen a PI call. Maybe I missed one. I have not seen a PI call a single time from our boy. So that's great. Ty Malone, 3 tackles for him in his starting role. This is the 2nd week in a row that Ty Malone has started. He wasn't great. The 2nd lowest guy, PFF graded guy, which again doesn't mean anything. It is just another piece, another nugget of information. It certainly kind of matches with the way it looked on the field. Jalen McClain with 2 tackles, Aaron Scott with 2 tackles, and Jermaine Matthews with 2 tackles. Now, we've got the rest of the defense done. Let's get to the showstoppers. Kenyatta Jackson had 1 tackle, 1 sack. He did his job. He did well. The Caden brothers. 2 really different stories with Caden McDonald and Caden Curry. Caden McDonald, last year in his 2nd year with the Buckeyes, an impact player coming off the bench and a guy that we knew coming into this year was certainly going to be a dude that was a dude, right? We could count on him. He was going to be a very, very solid to really good starter. I don't think anybody imagined in their wildest dreams that he would be this type of dude. He's been dominant every week. Today, he was dominant. He looks like a 1st-round pick. He's always been this kind of player. Coming out of high school, he was the Gwinnett County Player of the Year, and Gwinnett County, Georgia puts out more 4 or 5-star prospects per capita than maybe any other county in the country. He was the player of the year. And Georgia didn't want him because he's too short. Thank you, Georgia. This kid is an absolute maniac. One of his sacks was beating a double team, beat him bad, both of them. When they don't double team him, it's just, he's way too strong and twitched up. He's almost unblockable. In addition to him, the other Caden Curry, is probably the best story of the year. Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson have always been linked the same way we linked Jack and JT. And they've both paid serious dues here. But Caden has probably paid more dues. When Jack and JT announced they were coming back in 2024, those two, there was a lot of talk that maybe Kenyatta would transfer. Kenyatta, a lot of people felt, I think he was a little overvalued going into last year. A lot of people have always kind of overvalued him because he is such a physical specimen. Caden Curry never got that same kind of overvalue. But as we rolled on through last year, during the playoff run, Kenyatta played a lot, much more than Caden, and Kenyatta played really well in the playoffs. So as we entered this year, and the Buckeyes had brought in transfer Logan George from Idaho State, moved CJ Hicks down from linebacker, transfer Bo Atkinson from NC State, it seemed like Kenyatta Jackson was your clear number one, and then maybe on the other side, opposite him, you'd see some kind of rotation with Caden Curry and Bo Atkinson maybe being your 1 and 2 over there, or splitting snaps 50-50. But Matt Patricia and Caden Curry had other plans. Obviously, Matt Patricia came in and seeing how well Caden Curry could whoop up on guards last year in the Rushman package, they decided, why don't we bulk you up a little bit more, play you in the middle a little bit more? And that is certainly what they have done to astounding success so far. He's playing nose. He's playing 3-tech. He's playing 5, wide 9. He's all over the line. And he can do it all of it. He's the Arvell of the defensive line. And it's not gimmicky. He's borderline unstoppable. And against Washington, he was unstoppable. And not only was he unstoppable, and Caden McDonald was unstoppable, they both were like record-setting. So when we look at Caden Curry, his stat line today, he did something today that only 6 other Buckeyes have ever done in the history of Ohio State. 5 tackles for loss. We're talking names like Chase Young, Ryan Shazier, Andy Katzenmoyer, John Simon. So that, a big feather in his cap for that record right there. But his stat line in totality is absolutely absurd. Caden Curry had 11 tackles, 9 solo tackles. This is a defensive lineman with 9 solo tackles, 3 sacks, and 5 tackles for loss. It is such an amazing stat line that it propelled me to go through every single box score last year. Every single one. Looking specifically at Jack and JT's box scores, because I wanted to find the best game each one of those two had. So I took the best game each one of those two had and put it up against Caden's best game. So when it comes to those two, their best game coincidentally was the same game. It was Tennessee. And Caden, 11 tackles, JT and Jack each had 5. Solo tackles, Caden had 9, JT had 5, Jack had 1. Sacks, Caden had 3, JT had 2, Jack had 1.5. Tackles for loss, Caden had 5, JT had 2.5, Jack had 1.5. He essentially almost doubled the output. He almost got them combined, and that was their best game of the year last year in a national championship season. And Caden Curry almost doubled him up by himself today. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, this guy. He's a total wrecking ball and so humble. Listen to him after the game. All compliments to the teammates, all glory to God. Like, this dude is amazing. But there's more. Obviously, Ty Hamilton was the 1-tech last year, and we would compare him to Caden McDonald if we were comparing stats. But you can't really do that because Ty Hamilton has no stats that could ever touch Caden McDonald. So we take Caden McDonald, and we'll compare him to one of the better 3 techs we've seen come through Ohio State, first rounder Tyleek Hamilton. Tyleek Williams. Tyleek, his best performance last year came against Akron. In that performance, he had 7 tackles, 2 solo tackles. Today, Caden McDonald had 7 tackles, 4 solo tackles. Tyleek had 1 sack in that game against Akron and half of a tackle for loss. Caden McDonald today against Washington had 2 sacks and 3 tackles for loss. So Caden McDonald today against Washington had a better game than any single game Tyleek had all of last year. And Caden Curry had a better game than any single game Jack or JT had last year. And they both did it in the same damn game against the 3-headed monster that everybody was so worried about. Amazing. And we're only through 4 games. As Urban Meyer used to say, when I needed you most, did you give me your best? And Caden absolutely did today. Amazing performance by those 2, man. I'm just so impressed. I expected Caden McDonald to be really good. I was not nearly this high on Caden Curry, and a lot of my friends in the comment section were in the offseason. I was somewhat dismissive of him. I didn't expect this at all. When we look at the playoffs last year, it was Kenyatta who was making an impact. It wasn't Caden. And granted, yeah, when Caden came in, he looked like a madman. He got things done. And my brother would be like, I love that guy. I'd be like, I do too. I just don't know if he's the type of guy that I want to see starting. I do like him in that spot role, but my gosh, I don't want him to come off the field anymore. This guy's amazing. Now, when we look at this collective of 11 athletes on this defense right now, it is a more talented defense. It's a faster defense than last year. Jalen McClain is an absolute dude, and I think he's an upgrade from Ransom. Jermaine, I think, is an upgrade from Denzel. As much as I love Cody, Arvell is an upgrade from Cody. It went backwards at nickel. Defensive line, we all thought would probably take a step back. Well, no. Now it hasn't. The depth has. But the starters, losing Jack, losing JT, Tyleek and Ty, no, the defensive line has not taken a step back. In fact, this defensive line, as far as like game wrecking ability, it's taken a step forward. The depth has to keep coming along, and I think that it will. But this defense in totality is a better defense than 2024. The defense that won the national championship, not just better, way more exciting. And Matt Patricia is the best defensive coordinator in all of college football. By the way, James Franklin and Jim Knowles lost at home today. So there you go. Now, let's talk about, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't. We'll save this conversation for later. There are obviously some negatives. There's some negatives always. And why end on a negative? Let's just end on a positive and say that it was an unbelievable win for the Buckeyes, a win that not a lot of people thought they would win like this. I did. You guys did. But there were some people that thought this game was going to be really, really close, a nail biter, and maybe even the Buckeyes were going to lose. We always knew all along that all Ohio State had to do was play their game, and this Washington team could not hang. This was clearly a spot of them being overvalued due to the extra time, right? The bye week, the stadium, the fact that they scored 59 points against a really bad Washington State team and a really bad Colorado State team, or Cal State Fullerton for the blind, or whatever the hell it was. They were overvalued. Doesn't mean they're not, I'm not trying to diminish Ohio State's achievement, but they were just being way overvalued in this spot. And it was a spot. And it got way overblown. So on we go to Minnesota, who barely beat Rutgers. This should be a bloodbath. This should be a bloodbath next Saturday night at Minnesota. And I can't wait for it. A lot of recruits are going to be in town. We'll talk about those recruits this week. But I do appreciate you guys for joining me today. Have a fantastic Sunday. I will see you guys tomorrow. Check me out tomorrow night on BuckeyeHuddle.com at 8 p.m. But I will most likely have a video here at Juck on Bucks in the morning. And go Browns. All right. Talk to you later. Juck on Bucks out.